Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to another video. This will be another one of those casual videos where I do a little update. Well, I guess this time around it will be actually quite a substantial update because this is the first time I do it on YouTube during a project that has been in development for 5 years. I mean, I won't go through everything that has happened up until this point. I rather leave that to a timeline, like a history episode that will shed some more light of how the journey has progressed up until this point. And we could also have a look at the evolution of the project as a whole. Today, however, I will direct this video to my longtime followers. It's been kind of hard updating news on Instagram and Twitter through this weird lens of a disappearing news feed. I usually try to write what is happening in the description below the pictures and the videos I post. But since those social media channels, they're very focused on the present and quick scrolling through content, it's not necessarily a good place to find this persistent information. I mean, people like myself don't often go into other people's profiles and start digging in the description of their content. And that's why you're here and I'm here to make proper news and updates of what's happening with Unsung. So what I need to do now is go back 2.5 years ago when I actually stopped working on Unsung. And you're probably wondering why I did that. Did I grow tired of the project? But it wasn't like that at all. I actually was kind of devastated that I needed to stop in the first place. But the reason for this was that I was going on a 2-month short-term contract as a front-end developer. I figured it would be a good gig to enable this classy hobo lifestyle of a game developer. And I also knew that the commute, the work hours, the extra hours that was required to learn underlying framework specific for the company would take so much of my time that it would be unhealthy to pursue Unsung at the same time. But it was nice. I mean, I met a lot of good friends there, a lot of good colleagues, and I had a really enjoyable time at the company. But I mean, the thing was that the project I was involved in, well, let's just say that it lacked proper groundwork, and it just grew a bit out of control. I ended up staying there for almost 2 years. And this has been great for my financial situation, don't get me wrong, but being away from Unsung for that long also meant that a lot of things have changed once I came back to the project. Like the Skira, the engine developers behind the engine I use, was going to deprecate Construct 2. So basically I needed to convert the project to their new engine. And to their credit, this was quite easy. And but yeah, just as I feared, there were a couple of things that weren't quite what they should have been. I had issues with everything that was color tinted because they changed how the values were written. So the cat was red, and the nighttime and the title screen was all green. I lost a lot of the post-processing effects, like the chromatic aberration, the noise, the analog cartoon-like filters I use. And there were also game effects that needed to go, like shaders for vegetation swaying. What I use today is much more a much more simple solution for that than those that I used 2 years ago. But I mean, not all of the things are actually bad. There were tons of good things that I benefited from upgrading. So basically now the game engine initializes in 3 seconds from an SSD, and all in-game assets are streamed. With other words, there's no loading screens at all. On a typical gaming PC with an old mid-range graphics card, you can easily push 4K 60 FPS, or with a fairly new graphics card, you can push 4K 120 FPS. I've even pushed 5K at 144 Hz on my computer. So, with other words, the renderer is so much more flexible and it's so much faster. The engine also uses like workers, which basically means that you can scale both logic and graphics instruction to several workers and place them on different cores or threads on the processor. And this is of course crucial to get great performance out of mobile chipsets, because Construct 2 was a single-threaded application, and yeah, even if you were on a mobile phone, you were just using one core of that time, even though they have like 8 cores. So, well, other than that, they added some practical functions like a search function. Everything is indexed now. You can search through the whole project. And it's kind of insane that wasn't the case in Construct 2. But the thing is, something that could have taken me like 20 minutes to look up, like back in the days, in the Construct 2 days, can now be found in an instant. So, as you can probably tell, there's a lot of like pros that outweighs the cons, especially since most of the cons mentioned can be fixed, and well, I've fixed most of them already. But there's one thing, like one major thing right now, and it's actually causing a lot of concern for me, and that's also like one of the reasons why I'm making this video. And it has to do with the animations. I use a tool called Spriter, and it's a great tool for vector-based animations, and it allows me to do like smooth animations and beautiful transitions between animations as well. And Spriter has always been well integrated through third-party plugins with Construct. However, there are still bugs within the Construct 3 version of the plugin, which basically requires both companies to work closely together to fix it. I have reached out to both of them, but there's really no date when this can be fixed, especially since, I mean, both companies are really, really small and they have their own sets of priorities. And the current issue is basically, it comes down to the workflow. Because every time I import an animation, the plugin will create a new animation object together with new sprites linked to the new animation object, rather than how it was before, where it just replaced everything. And that doesn't sound very rough, like yeah, just delete the old one, right? But like all the scripts, all the code that relates to the old objects need to be referred to the new object. So basically you need to do a find and replace on like all the places. And in worst case, if I need to update one animation of the cat, I need to update all of the references in this document. And even with the new search engine and like the replace function, it's no small feat doing this, and can result in like a lot of bugs, a lot of unwanted errors if I'm not careful. And the thing is, I just can't change this every time I need to update an animation, especially since some of the animations require it to be tested like 30 times in engine before I'm completely satisfied with the results. So I've been reaching out to both companies, and they're really good, and they are looking into this issue. But before it's resolved, I'm kind of stuck, you know. I can't do the cutscenes, I can't improve or implement animations in general, and even old animations are glitching out due to compatibility issues. So, with all this being said, it's not like game development has come to a complete halt. I've just continued to develop the game in a more broken state, and eventually I will just patch everything up with new graphics and new animation when the time is there. But with all of this out of the way, I figured I could go into some details of what I've been up to until now. So I started working on the project in the end of last year. First I went to South Korea and Japan during Busan Indie Connect and Tokyo Game Show. But to be fair, it was more of a leisure trip than it was, and to kind of realize my childhood dreams, than it was a professional trip. But it kind of felt good, to like a good opportunity to take my newly found interest and passion in game development and go there. So I did get hold of pretty cool companies. One Japanese company that could potentially become our partners when it comes to converting Unsung to the Switch and PS4. I also had the opportunity to talk with some pretty influential people from back home here in Sweden. But I must admit, it feels kind of strange to travel all around the world only to realize that you can book those meetings in your hometown. But yeah, anyway, when it comes to converting the project to Switch and PS4, the current issue is that only PC computers, mobile devices, and Xbox platform offers web frameworks. Which, of course, the engine is based on, and that's why I need it. And I was pretty sure that Nintendo would do the same for the Switch, since they offered webs like a web framework for Wii U. But unfortunately, we were left without it this generation. It's very much like Unity or Unreal as middleware. Otherwise, you need to develop your own. And that's a shame, because it takes away a lot of time from actual game development. And I also have my reasons for not using Unity or Unreal for a 2D game. But more on that perhaps in a later episode. But other than that, my trip to South Korea and Japan was awesome. I met up with my wonderful friend Gina for the first time, which was great. She showed me around in South Korea and Busan, and it was a wonderful time. And once I came to Japan, I hiked up on so many mountains, I kind of lost count. I just don't get it. Like, they put all the pretty stuff on top of mountains in Japan. Unfortunately, I don't take a lot of videos, because I didn't realize back then that I would be starting this YouTube thing. And at the same time, I still feel like super uncomfortable filming in public, especially speaking like directly to the camera here by your lonesome. So that's a bit weird still, even if I'm like in my own home, there's nobody around. But other than that, I mean, staying in Japan was a transformative experience for me. I mostly stayed at, those tiny capsule hotels. And I only brought a 33-liter backpack, and a quite small backpack. Because I've been on this journey of pursuing frugal minimalism for quite a while, and I will probably make some videos about that as well in the future. But yeah, anyway, once I came back from this whole trip, it became apparent that Unsung, or Project Catnip as it was previously called, stood on a foundation which was developed in a very, reactive manner. Basically, I need this specific thing, so I develop just this specific thing. I don't build a framework around it, and that's just kind of what sucked with the whole structure. So basically, I had issues with some animation bugs for the cat, which I just couldn't get rid of. So I decided to rebuild the whole thing ground up, like the animation and movement. And this is like the third time. So third time's the charm, right? And to be honest, I'm really pleased with the result. I mean, if you just watch videos, there's just minor differences. But in terms of feeling, like when you're playing the game, it's completely different. And I'm also like really happy about the result, because the logic is much more scalable now and less prone to make any errors. And I also reworked like the camera system, and I remade the whole cutscene system. And yeah, those kind of belong together, but yeah, I don't think I should go too much into detail of what I did, but basically I built standardized functions and interfaces, which mean like less reliance on the tons of like small variables throughout the project, and just execute standardized workflows instead. This results in like just less room for errors for me, just making Unsung as easy as possible to work with in the future. So that's like the main goal of it. But yeah, Other than that, I started working on new level design since I couldn't continue with enemy design or anything regarding animations. So basically the new hillside scenario, the new airfield are completely redone. They existed before, but now they're redone and more in a, what can you say, final state. So sorry guys, the game won't look much prettier than this in the end. I mean, I added things like a new background, rolling cloud shadows in the background as well, environmental audio, a lot of assets in the foreground as well. So currently, right now, I'm more working on like the whole enemy interaction game loop. And it's quite technical, and it has almost taken 2 weeks, mostly because I really want a system that is standardized, that is easy to understand, and is completely built on like parameters. Things like health points, defense points, armor points, and those things add up to systems like how much the enemy gets thrown back. But this have been like extremely fiddly, and it's taken also a lot of time to get right. But I feel like at the same time it needs to get right, because I really want like the main game loop to feel very satisfying, because it's such a crucial part of the game as well. But other than that, I mean, the game is progressing slowly but surely. I had a lot of, as you probably heard, I had a lot of setbacks, but well, it's not only been about the game, it's also been like in life in general. So on a less positive note, my father's health hasn't been very good lately, and I've tried to be there for him a lot lately. Luckily, his health is much more stable now, and he is enjoying his retirement fully. But there were a couple of months that were really shaky for me and my brother. We just didn't know if he was going to make it. So it was just a rough time. And during this period of like 4 months, I just completely downgraded the importance of Unsung and just tried to be there for him as much as I could. And well, I still am, and I'm going to help him as long as he needs help. But he's good now and is feeling well. Modern medicine is like doing wonders to him. And I don't like to leave you guys hanging on a less positive note, but I've kept you here for long enough. Next video will probably be in 2 or perhaps 3 weeks, since it is probably going to be more of a fully fledged episode. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little insight in game development and what we are currently going through. So, you have been watching Dennis from Pixel Shade, and thank you guys for sticking around until the end, and hopefully I'll see you again in the next one. Bye!